Good morning. I'm Ken Bibrai, and welcome to Coffee with Ken, a thought leadership series at the nexus of business and politics. In the news today, Queen Elizabeth is under medical supervision at her Scottish residence, and the European Union is evaluating drastic measures as energy prices skyrocket as Russia cuts gas supply. Today's topic is the state of the residential real estate market, and we're excited to welcome Pamela Liebman, President and CEO of the Corcoran Group. Great to see you, Pamela.
Nice to be here, Ken.
So listen, I mean, right off the bat, you're one of these amazing people who decided to kind of head south and, tell us about the last 2.5 years for you personally running Corcoran, and then, kind of ease into like what's been happening in the residential market since COVID started.
Sure. So, I mean, just starting out with me personally, I have 2 kids who are out of college. My husband had retired, and I was commuting a lot back and forth to our home in Miami. And on March 12th of 2020, I came down here and I sort of didn't leave. And I realized we had started this big franchise business, and we had opened several offices in Miami. We already had quite a few in Florida. And with everything that was going on, the idea was we're going to further expand in Florida. I wanted to build my new development business in Florida. So the idea was that I would now, spend more time here. So that worked out well for me, and it was great to spend time with the kids over COVID because they all, they came down here, which was really nice. Business wise, we shut down pretty quickly like everybody else, but I was very proud of my team because we really moved everything to virtual very fast. And it was good that I had real high quality people who understood how to move quickly and how to make things happen. So we didn't really shut down. We couldn't show apartments, but we learned how to show them virtually. We turned our whole learning program to a virtual learning program, which now everybody's so used to virtual, it's hard to get them to go back to our learning studio. So it's something that we're looking at, commercially. And then when we came back, we sort of turned it into a hybrid workplace, which I always have second thoughts about because I am one of these believers that people should be in the office. But people got spoiled, and the whole housing market has changed because of this ability to work from you look like you're in your office. I mean, I'm sitting in my apartment at the moment, but you really, I think we learned you don't.
Well, you do residential real estate, I do commercial, so I should be in my office.
Yeah, I am seeing a shift though with a lot of people coming out now and saying, get back to work, the investment banks and all that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, for the first time yesterday, coming out of Labor Day, just driving to DC for meetings, for example, I mean, it was packed. There was traffic for the first time in 2 years. It seems like Labor Day 2022 is kind of what Labor Day 2020 was supposed to be. So it'll be interesting coming out of it. But at a high level, like what trends did you kind of see evolving since the pandemic started to now in terms of like what people are looking for from like residential housing, just in the market in general? Like what are people focused on? I mean, is it outdoor space? Is it, an office setup? Like what have things changed materially for like the long run?
I think you just hit the nail on the head. During the pandemic, people realized, wow, I'm trapped in my apartment. And guess what? These ceilings are too low. I don't have a terrace. My husband and I, or my partner and I are, working in the same 1-bedroom apartment, and this doesn't work for us, or my kids are homeschooling. So space obviously became a premium, and outdoor space was a huge issue. So you saw people flee, whether it was to the Hamptons or to Florida or to Montana, Boise, Idaho, Denver. I mean, there were so many different places. New Jersey, Connecticut, Westchester, you saw all these houses and properties getting absorbed. You saw 8 Airbnbs off the charts. What was happening. And then a lot of those people decided they liked that lifestyle better, and they became buyers, which is why you see a real lack of inventory across the country now. And we can delve into that a little bit more later. But, people are saying, well, aren't all those people going to come back? And the people who rented came back, but a lot of the people who bought did not come back, have no intention of coming back, especially if they can work remotely. The other thing that we really saw during the pandemic was that money was so super cheap that everybody could buy second, third, fourth homes without blinking an eye. They felt like it was free, it was free money. And if you move to a low tax state, whatever you spent on your apartment, if you're a high earner, it was like a free apartment because of what you were going to save in taxes. And we heard that a lot. So people bought really big, and whether you were, a first timer or a Ken Griffin, who you see just bought another $110 million house, it was a good time to move.
Yeah, interesting. So on the commercial side, the office has always been a place that you use for recruitment and retention, right? You have a nice office, people are going to come in, they're going to collaborate, they're going to get together. So much of what we're doing now is really consultative, right? It's the hunt for the young and talented. And maybe your office should have a more hybrid setup. Maybe we need to open a headquarters in a different location, right? Like geography matters less. So how do you think this is all going to play out? I mean, do you think the companies are going to head and establish more footprints in Miami as we've seen, in Nashville as we've seen, in Austin? I mean, is this just going to kind of, smaller hubs elsewhere? Or do you think people are going to kind of revert back to cities and urban cores?
I think a lot of people would like to believe that they're going to revert back to cities and urban cores. Yeah. If you see the rental market in New York City, it's off the charts. It's the highest levels it's ever been at. And for these young people trying to find apartments, I mean, they're forced to share or to get the parents to help them out, but they all want to come back to New York City. But there's a whole group of people that don't want to be in these urban cores. They don't want to take the subway. They don't want to deal with the traffic. They want to get up in the morning and go for a run when it's, 70 or 80 degrees out. They want to play tennis. They want to play golf. They want to not feel the stress of an urban environment. They want to have a big backyard. So there's a lot that calls people. They want to have lower taxes and they want to be in a friendly environment. And of course, you look at areas of very high crime now and you see what's happening and how people are, I don't want to say they're fleeing from those areas, but it's become something that's, very, very talked about. And I've been with Mayor Adams and several mayors, and they all say the same thing. You've got to get the workers back in the offices to overwhelm the subways with the people that you're used to seeing on the subways and in the streets, and not have the the unwanted element, for lack of a better word, to feel so prevalent as you're walking up and down the street. We're trying to sell a townhouse for $50 million, and you've got, 3 homeless people right outside. It's not great for sales.
Yeah. So how has Corcoran's business evolved during the pandemic, right? Like what has accelerated or changed? I mean, how are you meeting this demand in new areas like the Boise's of the world and so on? And how does your franchise model, which is pretty innovative, love to hear more about that. How does that kind of help meet that supply and demand requirement?
So we looked at areas that we saw were having high growth, where we felt we could operate effectively. The margins were right. We could get the right agents, because it's all about what agents that we can get. So during the pandemic, we opened 2 more offices in Miami. We opened in Palm Beach Gardens. We opened in Jupiter. And then we franchised across the country. Like, we really launched our franchise business right as the pandemic was hitting. And we were operating 2 businesses, City Habitats, which was the largest rental company in New York, and Corcoran, but we operated both of them because we had bought them but kept their own brand. And it was just fortuitous because we had decided to merge the 2 together right before the pandemic. And thank goodness we did that, because operating 2 real estate companies, March, April, May, June, July of 20, when the revenues were tanking, would not have been good. And I don't think anyone would have predicted the crazy market that came during and out of the pandemic. But what's very difficult for some people now is we didn't really hire up too much or start overspending because 2021 was a record year. Because being in this business for so long, I know what goes up is going to come back down, and you can't benchmark yourself off of a year like 2021. So people who think that 2021 is now the starting point for everything. When I look at our books, I say, don't compare. Let me see 19 and 22, right? Sure. That's sort of what we look at. And there's a lot of real estate companies that are struggling now across the country because they got a little fat on 21, and now they're like, oh my God, we have nothing to sell, and there's not as many people, and of course these interest rates doubling have not helped. And even though they're so low, people got used to that. Really cheap money.
Yeah. How do you advise developers, right? Like when they're putting out new product and they're thinking about growth all over the Sun Belt and across the country, what are you kind of, letting them know? What's your opinion that you think they need to be focused on? Is it smaller units with just more amenity space? Is it bigger units? Like what are the trends coming out of this with the new products that are going to deliver around the country?
So I think that people want as much outdoor space as they can get in these products if it's possible. And of course, these crazy amenities. And we've been focused on that in New York for a long time because we know it's not affordable to have some of these amenities in your own apartment. It'd be nice to have a gym in your own apartment, and some people can do it, but some can't. But we have a building we've been doing in New York called Waterline Square. In there, we have an indoor tennis court, a soccer field, like the biggest dog park, I think, in the city. And then everything you would expect, the bowling alley, the diner, the crazy gym, the club, Cipriani across the street. So that's a level
Coffee,
of
right?
coffee with Ken, right? That's an expectation now that people really have. And then, of course, if you're talking about other areas, sometimes there's the more outdoor component of golf, if you can do it, or a spa. We're working with a developer in Florida, working with several developers in Florida now, but very high-end hotel-like services, even if the hotel is not operating a hotel, that they're running the residential. And you see in New York how well we've done with that, and the developers have done with Four Seasons, now Amman, Auberge down here, and now we just launched the new building with Faina at One High Line with Steve Witkoff and Blavatnik. So every building has to tell its own story. And we try and also temper the developers' expectations. Right before you called, I was on the phone with one of New York's biggest developers. We're about to open a building for them, and he's complaining my guys priced it too low. And I'm complaining, hey, it's a land lease. It has 8.5-foot ceilings. I don't really know that it's too low. But now I said I'll send the team back down. I'll go myself next week, and we'll walk the building, and we'll see where we can reach a compromise. But it's always something. But you're seeing guys like Gary Barnett now build a club on the top of Central Park Tower. You're seeing all these crazy size swimming pools and just unbelievable amenities. 220 Central Park South, which is a building everyone likes to talk about, squash court, golf simulator, movie theater, library, spa rooms, hair room for a woman to get nails and hair done, basketball court, and every art collection, everything to the umpteenth degree, so that even if you're a multi-billionaire walking in that building, you are going to use those amenities.
Yeah. So this is an extreme live, work, play kind of embrace that developers are taking, right? I feel like it was more talked about in the past, but this truly seems to be like an evolution. We even know some, developers that are putting in like flex office in buildings now, especially outside of urban cores, where it's like you can go downtown for 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week you can actually walk out of your apartment downstairs, and there'll be like a co-working setup where there's Zoom rooms and coffee and a conference room, and you can have meetings kind of from home practically.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Club 11 in Miami, very popular club.
No.
It's open 24/7. There's like a lot of girls in there doing crazy things, and they decided to brand two towers here, the 11, and they're putting in. I think Jeff Zalaznik from Major Food Group, a huge winner during the pandemic. Crazy. So he's doing some of the food, and like you just said, they have a whole bunch of office spaces. The apartments are not big, but the club that they have there is just really off the charts. And then they even have, I won't call it Airbnb, but a rental component there. Yeah. So it makes it very easy. You go to your apartment, you buy it furnished, fully furnished. You can work there. You can go to the nightclub there. You can go to the spa there. And when you're not, you can rent it out. So that was a concept. They sold 400 units, I think, in like 8 or 9 months. Not expensive, but boom. And then they sold out pretty much the second tower as well.
Wow, incredible. So from the office side, like how we work has obviously changed, and we're advising companies there's like a real flight to quality, flexibility, shorter term potentially, understanding the need for flexibility, and just responding to talent. Do you think in the future, like how we live is going to evolve? Like, is there going to be a scenario where it's like you live in Miami for 3 months and then you literally just move and you go to, Boise, and then you go to New York, and then you go to DC, and like you're only doing 3-month arrangements and you just move, right? Like instead of 1, 2, 3-year leases, like, is that on the horizon where people just...
It's so funny that you say that, because I know a bunch of people that have done that.
Yeah,
they've gone to Montana and the Hamptons, Miami, and then they're going to the islands. So they're either chasing the skiing or the warm weather. I know people now that have done Tuscany for 3 months a year. So I don't know how sustainable that is. I think if you have money and
Yeah.
you're not tied down and you don't have to go to the office or you're retired. I think it's something that people realized during the pandemic, like I don't have to live in this one place like 12 months a year or just here and then go to the Hamptons or Aspen for the summer. So it's an interesting trend. And let's not forget how important Airbnb and all these high-end rentals are, because they've made it very easy to walk into a place in Vail and you're all set up. You've got a beautiful place, got no responsibilities, and then you turn the key and you leave. So, I mean, I like that. I like that idea. My husband and I have actually talked about that. At some point, wouldn't it be nice to go to 4 places throughout the year?
It's like an extension of like Airbnb and a normal residential deal. It's like the in between, right? Where it's like for 3 months, that kind of thing. Where it's like
and you don't have to, right, and you don't have to buy it. You could buy a couple of them. You could buy all of them, but you really don't. You really don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it from like senior executives who can be remote and flexible, and they don't need to be in an office, right? Where they're just kind of migrating around.
Right. And I just want to say one thing about offices. So now I'm about to open an office in Wellington, Florida. We just decided this yesterday. I hired somebody who moved from Santa Fe to Wellington. She's a rock star, and we're just doing a small little. It's not a I can't even say that word. It's one of those type of. I hate that word.
Flexible office solutions.
Right, small office solutions, because a lot of agents, there's two kinds of people. All through the pandemic, as soon as you're allowed to go back in, we have people, they were in every single day. They will not work from home. They come in and they love it. And they find it more collaborative, all the things everybody talks about. But other people, they realize, I don't need to come in. I'll come in if I need to drop something off or to get something done with my assistant. So we don't have to have these crazy big offices. And they're expensive.
No, they need big offices. No, it's all changing. It's real, right? I think we advise some clients, I mean, it's almost like their office is becoming a co-working space, right? Where it's really like even the design of it is more soft seating, more open, more casual, more about like hospitality, which I think is a positive trend, right? I think like offices should be about hospitality, and if it's going to be about convening and collaboration, it should meet those expectations, even in your 4 walls.
So we've always been great at creating fun office environments, but we got a little bit lucky. No, we got a lot lucky. We used to be at 660 Madison, and I think the building, commercial people, and they decided to vacate the building because they had other plans for it. We were the largest tenant in the building, and we knew that was going to happen. So we cut a very good deal where we got a lot of money back, and we moved. So we were paying over $105 a foot. And then when we got kicked out, it was perfect pandemic timing. And we went to what was the IBM building at 590 Madison for under $60 a foot, and better space. And people love the building because there's a gym. They use the gym. There's upstairs, you have ping pong, you have like a lounge, and we built beautiful, kitchen and yoga room and all that stuff that we always did. But they love 590. They love the accoutrements of the building.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now let's talk about the economy for a second, right? Like 2021 was a banner year for everybody, it sounds like. And when you look at the economy now, like interest rates have creeped up. There is a lot of economic uncertainty. There's concern if we're going into a recession or not. What's your take about this state of the market?
The inventory shortage will probably stop the prices from really cratering. I think I read a report recently that Boise, Idaho will be like one of the places that actually has price decline, but I think everyone's predicting sort of 0% increase. The increases were so ridiculous, particularly in areas like Miami, Palm Beach, Austin, all those low tax states. It's not sustainable to keep that up. We still see, I'll pull out the Hamptons market. I have a couple of friends that were just looking to buy in the Hamptons. It was really hard to find what they wanted. So they paid up for it. And this is just over the past couple of weeks. But with that said, the dollar is very strong. So the demand across the world coming to New York, everything is way more expensive. We still rely a lot on Chinese buyers here. Those who have gotten their money out, they buy a lot of real estate in New York City. I think there's areas that are going to have a hard time, but I've always said there's 4 cycles of real estate related to absorption and price, right? Volume and price. So when you have now a situation where you had high volume and high price, now you've got the volume coming down, the price has to come down, right? In order to send the volume back up. So I think we will see some price adjustments, except for this, still the extraordinary properties.
Sure. A flight to quality, anything big and special. What do you think about, so you don't think we're in a housing bubble? There's a lot of commentary about that. I mean, what are your kind of.
I mean, the last time we were in a bubble, we had all these foreclosures that were going to flood the market. We had people that, were so overextended, they were going to walk away. We had people that walked away from deposits. And that was really an artificially inflated market because people who couldn't afford to buy were given money. Mm-hmm. In this case, the people who bought still have money. They're not going to run away from their homes. They just may not trade up, or one of the problems is the trading up or the trading down is difficult, because if you do rely on a mortgage and you're in a place and you're paying a 2% mortgage and you have to go to a 5.5%, it's expensive. So some people are just getting locked in. And there are people who bought in the pandemic who have maybe changed their mind, and they're finding out they're going to take a hit on their price in some cases.
No, fair enough.
I don't think it's a bubble, mainly because of the money that was created, the inventory, the strong job growth. We don't have this crazy level of unemployment, but there's pent-up demand that was already met. So I think that we lose those buyers for a while. And then, of course, we lost all the crypto buyers for the most part.
Talk about at a high level, just housing in general. You've been doing this for a long time, right? I mean, you went to Corcoran when you were 23, I think, right? What about like affordable housing and meeting more demand and more construction? Like, what are the kind of policy, like we'd love to kind of dive into a little bit, like what could government be doing? What could policymakers be doing to kind of incentivize more development, meet more of this demand, generate more supply around the country? What are your thoughts on that just in general? And also just like addressing price point, first time buyers, the young and talented move into new places. I mean, prices have skyrocketed. How do you address the kind of supply side of this?
I mean, it's a city by city thing. And I mentioned to you, I recently spoke on a panel with Eric Adams and the mayor of Cleveland, and he had some really fantastic ideas for affordable housing. But there's so much fraud in the system. There's so much waste in the system. And I don't know how they ever figure that out. But if they could figure that out, and there would be funding to build affordable housing that gives people a road to ownership instead of just always shoving people in rentals, and creating a program, federal program, where you could help those people who can't really afford to buy a house with very, very low mortgages that are, that are backed. I mean, you saw we just got student loan forgiveness. I mean, the housing problem is just so huge across the country. I met with this guy last week who has a company called Boxable, and he's building these homes that are, these prefab homes that can go up in an hour, and they're not expensive. And it was fascinating if anyone wants to go on his website. And I said to him, this could solve the affordable housing, crisis across the country, maybe not in urban areas, but he said he's meeting with a lot of people in a lot of towns around the country. But that is a way that you can really get people into houses. And the long-term effects of not allowing people to buy homes is a disaster. And we see it in the Black and brown community now, when they were years ago redlined out of buying, that they have never been able to recover and live that American dream of buying houses. So I would love to see a way towards more affordable housing. I'm very much in favor of it. And I think it's something that everybody talks about, but nobody can seem to get it done. And then when they take away things like 421A, it doesn't help. So the politics in New York City particularly are very anti-real estate development, and they just get in their own way because they're causing these problems.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell Lama programs back in the 70s, I mean, that was a kind of pathway to ownership, which was pretty well regarded, successful. I mean, you have an amazing show on Netflix. You started last week. How's that going? Give us a quick kind of behind the scenes about Buy My Home, what that's like, why you're doing it, like what do you hope to accomplish, and
It's sort of funny. I didn't really want to do it in the beginning, and they kept asking me to do it. And then when I knew I was going to do the franchise business, I thought this was a way to get Corcoran out. And of course, Barbara Corcoran is extremely well known on Shark Tank, but she hasn't been part of the company for 20 years. But a lot of people across the country would think, oh, Barbara, where's Barbara? So I said, you know what, I'll do it. And it was fun. People I did the show with were great. It's a lot of work. It's grueling. The concept's a little wonky because the people who come to you to get you to buy their house, like, these are not great deals or anything. So you have to finesse your way through it. But filming in Albuquerque for 10 days in the middle of the summer, I can't say it was a blast, but I'm thrilled that I did it. The show is trending really well on Netflix, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for asking. Everyone should watch Buy My House.
Buy My House on Netflix. Check it out. Talk a little bit about how your role has evolved. I mean, just in general, and maybe through the pandemic and Accelerate. I mean, how much of your time are you spending like meeting with developers, recruiting talent, expanding, dealing with franchisees? Like, how do you split your time?
So I do spend a lot of time with my developers because they have a lot of money invested and they like to hear from me, and I've known them for many years. I have a great team that does my recruiting, but they call me in when they need me. So I do spend some time on that, recruiting, retention. I love being in touch with the brokers. I try and call a couple of brokers every day just to, have the touch. And so they never say, oh, we never hear from Pam, till we're ready to walk out the door or something like that. Definitely focused on the franchise business also, starting to travel more. It's it's been a good ride. When I came and interviewed with Barbara, I always tell the story. She said, "You seem great, but you don't seem like you'd stay around very long." And now I've been there longer than she was, which is sort of funny. Wow. And look, I came to the company. We were 30 people. We're over 4,200 people. We sold the company. We were doing 2.2 billion in sales. We're doing over 20 billion in sales now. So it's been a great ride. My passion has been the new development. I started that company for Corcoran. I was a partner in it with her. Then we bought the Sunshine Group, which was great. And we've expanded that business, and we're far and away the best in the country. And I'm really proud of that business. And, I have to just give one dig here. The biggest pain point for us in residential real estate over the past couple of years has been Compass. And they have just destroyed the margins of this business. And you could see somebody who has really deep pockets with SoftBank come in and just think that they don't care if they make money for years and years. So they haven't made money. It's been 8 or 9 years. They've lost well over $1 billion, but they just overpay the agents and they overpay everything. And, now it's coming home to roost a little. Their stock is under $3. But that's been a focus for a lot of people these past couple of years, is retaining the brokers. And now a lot of these Compass brokers are calling us, but they have golden handcuffs there because they were given so much money to go there. They can't leave without paying it back. So that's an interesting sort of story about, what happens when you just flood a market like this with money. How much money does it take to ruin an ongoing business? And I hear it from a lot of the franchisees and people around the country, how damaging, they've been.
Oh, on a similar thread, real quick, what's your thoughts on prop tech and real estate technology and innovation? I mean, I always kind of think that the commercial side of it is a little antiquated, and I mean, we're not really utilizing technology as much as maybe we should. I mean, do you see advancements in technology to enable and strengthen brokers, to help, buyers? Well, what are your thoughts on just like tech in general? I think the human touch, I don't think, can ever go away, obviously, right? Like, this is all.
Tech is an amazing tool, but you need humans to bring the tech to life and to have those conversations. And it makes their lives easier. So what we try and do is make the lives easier for the sellers, the buyers, and the agents, right? But nobody is ever going to buy a house from, a piece of technology. And you see things now like Open Door and Redfin and Zillow really failing with their buyer, with their what do we call it, the instant offer model. And when times are really bad, people rely on an agent. And when times are crazy and you can't get into a place, you need to rely on an agent. So I love technology. We spend tens of millions of dollars a year on technology, but it's a tool for the agents.
That's right. Excellent. Pam Liebman, thanks so much for making the time. It's great to see you again. And excited to hear so much about your background and everything going on at Corcoran. So amazing. All of you tuning in, appreciate it. Our next conversation is going to be on September 20th. We're going to have Jigar Shah, who's the director of the Department of Energy's Loan Program Office. And they've just gotten a big pot of money to put out on renewable technologies and clean tech. In the meantime, please visit coffeewithken.com to catch up on past sessions and sign up for future ones. Pam, thanks so much. Talk soon, everybody.